What is going on? This video probably won't take too long because actually more than one person asked this question, and it's a little surprising to see this question asked, but I don't want to make the assumption that everybody knows this answer. Just assume. I don't want to assume that people all know this answer. This might actually be a legitimate question. I mean, I see this all the time. What is digital currency? So when I was explaining the Iraqi auction, there's been questions asked to me, what is digital currency? Like, they couldn't understand the difference between the fact that these auctions, they sell off currencies, all right? And the currency is either digital form or physical form. Now, if you go into your bank and you have a bank account there, I mean, let's just say my local bank probably has about I'm going to say about 3,000 or 4,000 people who bank at my local bank. And I would say that between them all, they probably have in excess of about, let's say, $10 million, $20 million between all of them, between checking accounts, business accounts, savings accounts, you name it. They have, let's just say, for the sake of this whole example, let's say they have 20 million combined dollars. Okay, so whether it's retirement accounts, CD accounts, checking accounts, savings accounts, business accounts, you name it, they have about $20 million between them all. If you went running in there to rob that bank thinking they were actually holding on to all $20 million, you're going to be very, very disappointed in your robbery results, okay? Banks don't hold that kind of money. In fact, if you happen to be a person who's lucky enough to have millions of dollars in your bank account, even if you went to go cash it all out on the day and insisted on having cash, a bank could not give you that money right then and there because most of the money is stored in a digital version of it, okay? In other words, they were going to have to order the money in order to cover that amount because banks do not hold that much physical currency in its location, okay? They just don't do that. I don't know how people came up with this misconception. There are trillions and trillions of dollars around the world. More than 95% of it is digital currency, not physical currency. Can you imagine with all the debt that we accumulate if there was actually that many physical dollars going around? Do you see what I'm saying? Another example is this. Pretend like I have a coin. All right. Let's not use that. I was going to say, okay, so if you have a coin that's worth money, you can look at it different. Think of cryptocurrencies. Cryptocurrency is another type of digital currency. All right. You can't go into the bank and tell them to cash you out 10,000 physical Bitcoin dollars because there is no Bitcoin dollars. It's all digital. Okay. So let's talk about this because, Brad has asked on a couple of occasions here, Brad, who the hell has digital dollars, Pimpy? Every single bank and credit union has it. It says 25 in cash, dude. How is that a little cash? Well, if you're dealing with bank to bank, what he's talking about is in that one particular auction, you see $25 million sold over there in the Iraqi auctions. But keep in mind, I told you guys when I explained the auction, this is how it works. The oil finance ministry deals directly with this central bank of Iraq. Iraq sells over $1 billion, billion with a B, dollars worth of oil every month. So when you see these currency auctions happening, you're not going to see around $25 million. As many of you been in this business a long time, I'm talking about the investment of the Iraqi dinar, many of them have. All of the currency auctions have been in the hundreds of millions. We've seen it. 115 million, 200 million. That's not physical money, all right? It's digital money combined with physical cash because no bank over there is going to have that. As a matter of fact, the IMF had just recently spread throughout all of the banks in Iraq. $1 trillion. Did you think they actually physically drove cars to all locations and dropped off that much money? No. No, they didn't. Okay. Now, don't get me wrong. They have a lot of money, let's be honest. But most of the transactions that are done between banks, like from my account to your account, well, let's just give you an example. Let's say I'm at the 7-Eleven store and I go into to the ATM and I pull out $200 from my Bank of America account. Do you think as I go into the ATM machine that there's going to send a notice over to Bank of America and then Bank of America is going to then drive over $200 for me to get from the ATM? No, they don't do that. There's a digital version that shoots across the screen. It's an electronic transaction between the ATM machine and my bank account that says that I have now given Lee 200 physical dollars in exchange for 200 digital dollars. That's because the bank is not going to go over there and deal directly with this machine. They don't need to. It's done electronically. That is digital currency. Okay? Your bank accounts, your checking accounts, when you go check them online, those are digital versions of your balances. Okay? When you send money to somebody into another country, they don't just hand deliver physical dollars. It doesn't work that way. They actually take and transfer the money over the wire. It is a digital form of your currency from one location to the next. This is why it's done lickety split. Okay? Hey, quick reminder in case you don't already know this, real quick, I have a Facebook group with the same name as my YouTube channel. I'll leave a link in the description so that you guys can go over to it. Speaking of digital currencies, this is a digital currency, cryptocurrencies. Speaking of, since this morning, it has gone up pretty decently for XRP as well as Ethereum. Okay, so like I said, these are all cryptocurrencies. You exchange money for a digital coin. These aren't physical dollars. That's what a digital currency is. Brad is not the first person to bring this to my attention. This is why I feel like we need to make a video. There's confusion about the Iraqi auctions, all right? So when I tell you that the auctions have opened, and they have, they're not going to part with the physical US dollars. There's a high commodity there. They have no problems with selling digital versions of it at all because they make more billions of dollars a month selling oil. They do this to help protect the exchange rate of the Iraqi dinar. But even so, people are asking about this. So, cryptocurrencies are digital coins. You can't go to the bank and get a Bitcoin banknote or a Bitcoin coin. You can't go into the bank and ask for Ethereum coins or Ethereum dollar bills. These are all digital versions of the currency, okay? All right, now having said that, if you come over here, how banks create money. Most of the money in the economy is created by banks in the form of bank deposits. The numbers that appear in your bank account. Banks create new money whenever they make loans. 97% of the money in the economy today exists as bank deposits. Whilst just 3% is physical cash. Now, for those of you who know anything about fractional banking, in order for a bank is allowed to do loans, and depending on the amount of physical cash they have, is the amount in which they can stretch out the loans. So we all know the ratio is 90 to 10. So in other words, if I want to do $1 million worth of loans, I have to be holding as a security at least $100,000 in my account. Does that have to be physical dollars? Yes, there has to be a quick liquidity, something that you could quickly cash out. That is the laws. They must physically hold 10% of whatever they're doing business with. Okay? So, digital currencies, again, people ask, what are digital currencies? It's 95 to 97% of the money out there. There's not physical. It would be, our streets would be flooded with money. That would be nice, so don't get me wrong. If we actually had a dollar bill for every dollar bill we say is being transacted every day. It's impossible to do, okay? The money that banks create isn't the paper money that bears the logo of the government owned by the Bank of England. It's the electronic deposit money, that flashes up on the screen when you check your balance at the ATM. Right now, the money, which is bank deposit, makes up over 90% of the money in the economy. Okay, and they're talking about digital money right now. Okay, right now, this money, bank deposits, is all digital. Only 3% of the money is still in that old-fashioned form of cash. So when I show you those currency auctions, I don't know why you guys are making such a big deal of it. You want so right for that not to be an auction. There's only one person out there in all of the dinar community who said that God told him the reevaluation would happen, and you would see this when the auctions came back along with the ISX open. There would be a new rate change. And this is why a lot of you guys, even though the obvious evidence is right there in front of your face, and you could see that in fact the auctions are open and there's still no rate change, that somehow the rate change is never going to happen. Who the hell told you guys that? Not me. One person did. I can't believe how everybody is so banked on that one prophetic word that was told. Look, people get crap wrong all the time. The grown-up thing to do is come out and say, look, I made a mistake. But in this particular case, when you say God told you and you're wrong, well, that's something you can't just come out and apologize for. You're pretty much tarnished. All right? And not only that, you're tarnishing God's name. So don't do that. Now, I told you before, I'm rooting for him. I am. I'm not lying about that. It's not, to me, it's not a matter of who's 100% right or who's the quickest to get the information out there. It's important to try to relay the message as accurate as possible. Okay? Now, I've made mistakes, but I go back and I say that I made a mistake. I made a mistake about the ISX, the Iraqi Stock Exchange, but I explained to people why I thought it was open and how I made that mistake. It's no big deal, though. It's only big to everybody because you don't want that thing to be open without the rate change. Many of you people are insisting that that's what's going to happen. That doesn't mean it's not going to happen. It still has not opened. But if you also linked these currency auctions to that same old prediction, and that is the currency auctions and the ISX will not restart until after the currency change, and one of those did restart, and the currency change and the currency rate has not changed. Yeah, it's really super damaging to your credibility, and it looks really bad when you put all your eggs in one basket. But even worse than that, you're indirectly tarnishing God by claiming that God tells you that and it doesn't happen. Because what's your excuse going to be? This is why I don't like when people do that. Now, I do like what Clement said, and I support it. I do like what Jeff said, and I support it. But that doesn't mean that I put all my eggs in one basket, because when these two things happen, and if there is no rate change, and we can see that the auctions have already happened, they've already started. And already you guys are losing your freaking mind over it. That's not an auction. That's not an auction when it's clearly an auction. What's going to happen if the ISX opens and there's no rate change? All that doom and gloom and negativity that's going to be overwhelming everybody. Why? Because you piggybacked off of Kim Clement, who never gave a date and never gave a rate. But you turn around and piggybacked on him and you gave an approximate date. That's really bad. So yeah, I don't want you guys to misunderstand. I am over here on the sidelines cheering, hoping that it's legit. I am. But right now, one of the two have happened. The currency auctions have started. There's no doubt about them. I explained to you, actually it was explained to me by Nathan. He's like, this guy, man, he's getting this wrong. And I even got it wrong partially, okay? So I went over and I explained to you how the currency auctions worked. But when I first showed you the video in which he's explaining, I thought it was funny and you guys caught it. He's showing you that the physical cash was zero, but I was like, that's funny because right above it is the digital cash, and nobody caught it. I was like, what the heck? No, that's not true. I did see a couple of people in the comments, they did catch it. So, you guys, it doesn't mean it's the end of the world. It doesn't mean that the rate is not going to change. I still think it's going to change, all right? So, yes, the currency auctions have started, Brad. And yes, that's what a digital currency is. It is 97% of the money being transacted every day between banks, credit unions, and financial institutions. So, but just so you know, you're not the only person that asked what a digital currency was. So I hope that answers your questions, you guys. And who the hell has digital dollars, Pimpy? Every single bank and credit union, trade bank, business bank out there has digital currency. Okay? I hope that answers your question. You guys have a good day.